Greetings, everyone. This is Jeff Wilkerson, Professor of Physics at Luther College, bringing you the next of our What to Look For in the Night Sky series. We're talking about the week of December 12th, 2022 this week. Our focus is going to be the Geminid meteor shower. We've talked about meteor showers some here lately. We know, as we've talked about before, meteor showers, they rise when the Earth's orbit intercepts the debris left behind in a comet orbit. And so we hit that debris, and so all of the particles seem to be coming from the same point in the sky. That's the case in the Geminids. We hit it at the same time each year. We've talked about how there can be a sort of tube of material, a distribution of material. So a lot of times you'll read, this is the time to go see a meteor shower, but it's actually spread out over several days. It might be a pretty sharp peak when we hit the highest density of material, but there's material around there. The Geminids are my favorite meteor shower of the year. Big, bright meteors. Relatively easy to see early in the evening, often. The radiant. The radiant is the point in the sky where they seem to appear, and the radiant is up well before midnight. As soon as it gets dark, the radiant's in the sky. So you can wander outside and see these big, bright meteors. And so that's what I plan to do. That's what I recommend you do, too. So the actual peak is going to be on the evening of the 13th, Tuesday night, into the 14th, Wednesday morning. You might be better off one night later. You might not be better off one night later because of the moon. The moon is waning and moving away from this region of the sky, but it doesn't rise into the sky until after it's dark for a while on the night of the 13th. So I'm planning on going out on the night of the 13th right after dark and just walking around and seeing if I can see a few meteors here. Hopefully it'll be clear for that. So in Gemini, remember the meteor showers are named for the constellation in which the radiant appears, the point in the sky where these things seem to appear to originate, very close to Castor. Castor and Pollux, the twin stars in Gemini, big bright stars. So let's find Castor and Pollux. Go outside now, look to the southeast just after it's dark. You've got three beautiful bright red objects forming a triangle here. Betelgeuse, the shoulder star in Orion, Aldebaran, the eye of the bull, and Taurus, and Mars up here. About 8 to 9 degrees separates Mars and Aldebaran, and about 20 degrees, a couple of fist widths at arm's length, separates Betelgeuse and Aldebaran. So you got that triangle of bright red objects right there. Mars, they're all bright. So you look this direction, you'll see three really bright red objects, and that should guide your way. Now, if you move 40 degrees, maybe 4 fist widths across from Aldebaran, you get to Pollux. And Castor and Pollux are the twin stars up here, and there's strands of stars that stretch back toward Taurus that direction. And so the radiant of these meteors looks like it's coming from up just above Castor. It's a plenty rich show. So you should be able, if you're out for 10 or 15 minutes, even with moon interference, you should be able to see a few of these meteors without any problem, I think. And remember, the radiant just looks like where things are coming from, so the meteors will come out this direction all away from that radiant. So you don't have to look at the radiant, and probably, in fact, it's best not to. So you can focus your attention over here in the direction of Mars and Aldebaran and Betelgeuse and Orion, and just kind of watch that sky and see if you can see some of these big, bright, rolling meteors and get several of them in just a few minutes out in the cold this week. That's, again, I'm going to do this on the evening of the 13th and maybe again on the evening of the 14th. The peak should be somewhere overnight, 13th into the 14th. On that 13th, when we would be at the peak of this meteor shower, the moon is going to be about 70% full, about 2/3 full. And so it's a waning gibbous moon, and it will be over this direction. If we go, okay, we take our 40 degrees from Aldebaran up to Pollux and about that distance again, down toward Regulus over here. Regulus sits in the base of the the sickle, the backwards question mark of the tail of Leo, and it sits right below Algeba as the next bright star up. The moon's going to be sitting right between there. This is on the night of the 13th into the morning of the 14th when the moon's about 70% full. So the moon, remember, we're coming out of a week now when the moon occulted Mars. I hope you had a chance to see it. So the moon passes over Mars and blinks it out. And here it is making a nice grouping with Regulus and Algeba and Leo here on the morning of the 13th and the 14th, as it's about 70% full and waning. It keeps tracking to the east as it does, and you can see the triangle tail of Leo down here, Dana Bola here. By the time we get to the morning of the 17th, it will be closing in. We say we got this triangle of a tail of Leo, and it sits above a Y shape of Virgo. Bright Spica is down here. And this is rising into the morning sky right now. So on the morning of the 17th, Saturday morning, this will be rising up into the sky, and the moon's closing hard on Porrima down here in Virgo. And so the moon is now 40% full, and still waning, of course, and still tracking to the east, and it's moving right toward Porrima, and I'll lose it in the morning sky. It will actually occult, just as it occulted Mars here a week ago. It's going to occult Porrima here in the morning sky on the 17th. But you got to live pretty far west of where I live here in Iowa in the United States. People in maybe California or Hawaii would be able to see this, and maybe moving westerly from there would be able to see this occultation as the moon passes over the bright star, the Gamma star here in Virgo. So this is what we got. We're focusing on the meteor shower that is the Geminid meteor shower, tens and tens, maybe scores of bright meteors per hour. So, maybe a rate of 1 a minute if you've got good skies. Going to have a little bit of moon interference. But if you catch it at the peak or near the peak, try the evening of the 13th into the morning of the 14th. The moon's going to rise on this night of the 13th. The moon's going to rise about 9:30 my time. So I'm going to do most of my meteor watching before that. And it's warmer than anyway, so I'm going to do most of my meteor watching at 7:30 or 8:30 that night before the moon has a chance to come up and wash the sky out. The moon will rise an hour later the next night, and it'll be further away from this part of the sky, and it'll have waned away a little bit more. So the moon will be a little bit more favorable on the evening of the 14th, and it might be worth going out. Heck, why not go out on the 15th too and see if you can still see? Remember, there's a broad peak for these things. This isn't a super broad peak meteor shower, but you got a broad peak for these things. Betelgeuse, Aldebaran, and Mars, 3 bright red objects, guide you up to Castor and Pollux. Watch for the meteors. You don't have to look right at the radiant. I would, in fact, look west of the radiant, further away from the moon, higher up in the sky as the moon's starting to rise. See if you can see these things. If you get a chance, watch the crescent moon, nearly a half moon, but the crescent moon closing in on Porrima on Saturday morning. All great stuff. Have a great week, everybody. Hope you have clear skies, and as always, thanks for watching.